Right.
Exhaustion, being sucked down because you're stressed, because you're anxious, because you're worried, because you're not motivated, because you're not excited that tomorrow you have to go to school or work.
Right.
And I think it just can make people zombies. They're real zombies.
That's so true.
Yeah, and you almost
walking zombies.
Yeah, you almost don't. I mean, forget drugs. If you're not sleeping or eating your 3 meals a day, and you're kind of having an out of body experience on a daily basis. So nothing seems real. And parents, if you're listening, I mean, if you're doing it, great, keep doing it. But if you're not, pay attention to that. Sleep. Some of us have. There's some mental health history. We know that in our families. Maybe we're not getting treated for it, or maybe we are. But if we're not eating 3 meals a day and we're not sleeping, it's not going to do us any good. You can't make good decisions without that sleep.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I wish we didn't need sleep because I could be so much more productive. But you have to have sleep. You have to have sleep.
Yeah,
just like sometimes you don't want to stop and eat because you're so busy. But it's like, okay, I've got to eat. I mean, it's like fuel for your car. You know, to keep your body going, you have to stop and eat. You have to stop and sleep.
Yeah.
Because it will catch up with you, and you will. If you're not sleeping, you're going to have those accidents.
Right.
And you're going to make bad, poor decisions.
Yes.
And be taken advantage of, and all these other things.
Right. Well, you should have a space in your home for studying, a place in your home for your meals. You should have a place in your home for sleep. And it should be clear of clutter. It should be clear of any distractions so you could rest. You remember, Maria, when we were seeing kids in their rooms, how disheveled some of those, their bedrooms were, their beds, and they're just laying on their, on their clothes.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so it's something that has to be taught, and I think that we miss that with the new generations. I think they're missing. I think that it's not that important to sleep, and it's not that important where you eat. It's just what's important is what's happening on a daily basis with your social life. But in other countries, it's interesting because eating and sleeping is part of your social life.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that.
And I think
go ahead.
More and more today's kids are just left to their own devices and their own means.
Yes.
They're kind of, they may be part of a family, but they're pretty much like on their own, raising themselves. They're internalizing their struggles. They're not sharing their struggles out of, embarrassment or fear or whatever it is with their families.
Right.
Or maybe they think that they won't be heard. And so they're not equipped
to
cope with all of this, all these changes that have happened, and all the stresses of, post-COVID and going back to normal when they still, haven't got to process, 2 years of their lives. And it's getting harder. I mean, I know Maria knows that. Like, it's getting harder in the schools because of lost learning. They're being told they have to catch up. And I can't imagine how many kids are going to have to go to summer school.
Yeah.
And how many of them are going to not even be excited about that. I mean, I sure wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
hard to be a kid today.
Yeah, it is. And again, like I said, our topic was going to be peer pressure. But I think that, with mental health, I mean, it's a different level now. it's a different playing field now. That
Oh yeah, and nobody could have foreseen this. I
no,
mean,
not at all.
maybe Nostradamus, but
Yeah. Well, us at the Real Podcast of Dallas, we knew this. We're prepared for this.
yes,
And we have answers. We have professionals working on this broadcast, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting that we can talk about this and get it out there. But more interesting is that it's not going to get any better unless we make it better. Unless we start.
I think that
at home. Go ahead.
I always think of Maria when I say this, but I think that the thing that's most helpful for young people and for adults too is setting boundaries and rules and expectations
Yes.
in the home. I mean, like, I know everything runs like clockwork in Maria's
Right.
home. Everybody has to shower, before they go to bed. Everybody has to do this.
Right.
There's expectations, and those are healthy when you have, a routine and you have expectations.
Everybody
and
has a role.
boundaries. It can be a real lifesaver. I mean, it really, there's a lot to learn in doing that, and it's very soothing as well
Yeah.
to have that routine.
Yeah. It's
Thank you for saying that, Cindy. I really do try with my kids, my family and my home and everything like that. And I think that's what makes me so sad sometimes, because I know that is one thing that is lacking in the homes of a lot of the students that we've worked with. And sometimes it's like we're trying to help our youth, but we should also be trying to help, the parents of our youth, because they're the ones that need to be able to set these boundaries or teach their kids how to set boundaries and to have certain routines that will ultimately help them succeed in life. Because look, let me tell you, sometimes with these students, I tell them, you have to go, you need to get a good night's rest. You need to eat health. You need to have, better eating habits, healthier eating habits.
right.
And they don't know what that is. They have no idea what that is or what that looks like. I was eating the salad one day, and one of my students was like, "Miss, why are you eating all that green stuff? It looks like grass." And I was like, it's really good for you. It's good for you, and it tastes good. Because she's like, I can't even put that in my mouth because I think I'm gonna throw it up. And you don't have to eat salad. You just have to have a routine of having healthier food choices. I have kids who come into my room and all they want to eat is chips.
Right.
They're looking for the chips. They want chips. And I'm like, I'm always trying to offer them, better snacks so that they can at least have something. But they don't want that. That is not what they want because they're not used to it.
Wow.
So I think we do have. It's important for us to continue to help our youth, but we also need to help
Nourish the mind.
Yes.
Nourish the mind so that it can cope, so that it can sleep.
Right.
Your mind is not nourished on chips.
Yeah.
I agree. I love salt.
Yeah.
I want the chips too. But
And I love the sweet.
What'll happen is, what kids don't understand, what'll happen is that you'll start replacing that nutrition, that need for something, with drugs and alcohol. That'll actually become a meal. And
sure.
You'll start nourishing your body with, alcohol, marijuana, drugs. If you've been around people that have an addiction, they end up replacing meals with that. And that goes back with emotionally being immature, not realizing when you're hungry, not realizing when you're cold, not realizing when you're tired, not realizing. So you become off balance. We've talked about feelings in the past episodes. Identify your feelings, your physical and emotional feelings. But if you don't know when you're cold, if you don't know when you're hot, You're not going to know when you're sad. You're not going to know when you're hurt. And that causes a lot of conflict. So identifying when you're hungry and then identifying what your body needs to eat.
That means being mindful.
Very mindful, yes, which was a huge topic now. People talk about being mindful, but that's really what that means. Go ahead.
I mean, sometimes I think we say mindful so much that it's almost like a fad, and so people don't really pay attention to it.
Right.
But it is something that, it's a skill you can hone. If it's a skill, if you practice it, that you can say,
yes,
what am I feeling in this moment?
Yeah.
What can I appreciate in this moment? What am I smelling, seeing,
right,
tasting, slowing down when you
That's it.
Slowing down in everything, like slowing your mind down.
Yes.
Paying attention.
Yeah, focusing on the, whatever it is that's at hand.
Yeah.
Because I know it's so easy to think, well, I've got to do 15 things today, but trying to just slow down and focus on the one thing that you're doing at that moment.
Right.
Finish that first before you start thinking about the other 14 things.
Right. We're seeing
and check it off.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of anxiety with teens and preteens. I'm hearing about a lot of anxiety, and with adults, of course, but when you see it with teens and preteens, because they don't understand how their body functions, and a lot of them don't realize that a lot of anxiety that they're having is normal because they're not going outside the way they should. They're not working their bodies the way they should, climbing trees or running. So it creates an anxiety. So the alternative to that for a lot of them is marijuana. So they turn to it so that they can, just if you're working with, you work with them a lot, Maria, and they tell you, it's that, they want to feel better. Well, why don't you feel better? And it's mostly that they have this anxiety. Some of them can't sleep because of their anxiety. Their mind's running. And a simple walk before they go to bed will help them.
Yeah. I think the thing that kids occupy themselves with today, and I know adults do, and I'm guilty too, is with like TV, Netflix. Netflix is so good now.
Right.
That you don't ever have to go to a movie,
Right.
And there's 15 good shows on.
Yes.
So instead of, going home and playing and,
right,
being athletic or whatever, you're going home and you're watching your television.
Right.
And that's what's on all the time.
Yes.
And that can get you in a rut.
Yes. And adults...
It becomes a habit.
Yeah, and adults may be able to do that after work. You've had a long day, long week. You want to decompress. But teens, preteens, you've got a lot more energy than adults. So you should be out there. And for some adults, that suffer from anxiety, some of them have that lifestyle, and they actually should be doing more outdoors or, with exercise.
Right.
So we're covering a lot tonight. Yes. This is the real podcast of Dallas. So, yeah, it's an interesting...
The real podcast, yes.
Yes.
It's real.
With real talk.
With real stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about peer pressure, but this has really turned into more of a mental health topic, which, if you read between the lines, in order to deal with peer pressure, you have to deal with your mental health first. You can't say no and feel good about it if you don't feel good about yourself. So we're trying to teach you and help you get to a level where you're understanding yourself a little bit better. Be kinder to yourself. I don't think people are kind enough to themselves. I don't think that people pay attention to that.